Well, hey folks, here we are again. This is Mike from Guns and Hunting. Gonna make a little video about how I reload for my 45 ACP. I don't normally buy brass. I just, pick up brass that I find at the range, range brass. Whether it takes the small pistol primer or the large pistol primer, it doesn't matter. As long as it's in halfway decent shape, I'll use it. I'll check it, of course, for overall length before I use it. And speaking of that, the overall length for a 45 auto case is 0.888 to 0.898 10,000ths. So anything under 888 I throw away. And I'll tell you why. The minimum length, like I said, is 0.888 on the 45 auto case. Now the 45 auto case, when it's in the chamber, it head spaces off the mouth of the case. So if your case is a little short when it's in the chamber, the firing pin might not make a strike on it, because the case is too short. Of course, if it's a little long, over the 898, you should trim it. But for me, as long as it's between 888 and 898, I don't trim it. But I do crimp it, whether it has a crimping groove or not. But I don't put much of a crimp on. I put a very little crimp on it for the same reason. It head spaces off the case of the mouth, and if you crimp it too hard, it won't head space right. The case will slip down in past the chamber. So the first thing we're going to do is prime the casings. These are all cleaned and to size and everything. Like I said, I just have an old school press, single stage. Put the large pistol primer in for what I'm going to load, one at a time. That's all I do, is just one at a time. I'm not looking to load 100 cases an hour. To me, that doesn't matter. I load for quality and accuracy. So like I said, it doesn't matter to me. But we'll get a couple done here and I'll get back to you. Okay, we're back. I got all the cases primed. I don't know if you can quite pick it up here, but I'm using cases with large pistol primer. You have some that take small pistol and large pistol primer. I did a lot of R&D work on my 45 auto to see which it liked the best, and depending on the powder and the powder charge and the bullet and weight and so on and so forth, it probably turned out I got 50-50 between small pistol primer loads and large pistol primer loads that it liked. Some of them I had the same powder, the same charge, the same bullet, and all I did was just change the primer from a small pistol primer to a large pistol primer, and the accuracy either it got worse or it got better. So that's just some things you got to try. But when I load, like I said, I load for quality, not quantity. Every time I prime a case, I check it, just feel with my finger to make sure the primer is not sticking up above the bottom of the case. So I have my RCBS Charge Master all set, ready to go. Put it in. But sometimes with my Charge Master here, with my 45 auto, you're only dumping in 4.5, 5 grains. Sometimes the first 2 or 3 it'll throw a heavier charge, so I just take it out and dump the powder back in. But once it gets set, you know, to the charge weight, it usually does a pretty good job. So there we go. And I always tap it to make sure the powder goes down in the whole way through the funnel. And when I load, you can't see it here, but I have a custom loading tray I made up. Doesn't matter what caliber, whatever I load for, who I load for. All my cases are put with the primer up. Then as I take each case out, I put the powder in and I set it down. Then I know I can't double charge the same case. Now some of them you can, like the 45 auto, you know, if you're not looking what you're doing, you can actually throw a double charge, because like, well, not maybe unique here, but I was loading up the other day, I was loading like 4.5 grains, you know, and if I would have put a double charge in, it definitely could have fit inside the case. So you got to be on your ball, know what you're doing, and, you know, don't lose your concentration. So like I said, I'm not going to go through every one here. I'm just showing you how I do it. I don't deviate anything from the book. Whatever the loading manual says is what I do. The only thing I might deviate from is like the brand of primer. It says, you know, we use this load with the Winchester primer, or we use this load with CCI primer, or whatever. You know, I'll try it. And if my gun doesn't like it, then maybe I'll load something else, you know, put a different kind of primer in. And like I said, it can drastically change, you know, how bad or how good your accuracy is. But if you do that, reduce your charge weight a little bit. You know, some primers, even though it might be the same large pistol primer between Winchester, Remington, CCI, Federal, one might be a little hotter, throw a little bit hotter spark and get higher pressure. So whatever you do, reduce your charge weight a little bit, and for safety's sake. So I'm gonna put the powder in all these and I'll get back to you. Okay, we're back. I got all the cases filled with powder to my charge I had set in my Charge Master. I'm gonna pull this out, maybe you can see it a little better. This is a custom loading tray I made. My plastic one is a little too deep. You know, you put a 45 auto case in it and it falls to the bottom, which it should, but being that the case is so short, you know, you can't get it out unless you try to get like a pair of pliers and pull it out. So I made this custom loading tray at work, and I have it maybe 3/8 of an inch deep, and you can see here they sit in there real nice. You know, I don't have to mess around trying to pull them out. And like I said before, you know, all the brass that I use to reload my 45 auto with is range brass. So when I'm done shooting, you know, I pick up all my brass, and you know, I go look for brass, and I just pick up whatever, whether I load for it or not. And when I get back, you know, I'll go through my brass, and you know, any 45 auto brass in there, the first thing I do is check for length. If it's, you know, shorter than 888, well, it gets thrown in my junk bucket, because I scrap my brass, I hand it in, and you know, I use that to support my hobby here. But yeah, like I said, it's all ready to go. It's charged. You know, now all I have to do is seat the bullets. And what I do when I seat the bullets is I turn the adjustment back here to make when I seat the bullet, it's a little short, because I'm using today a 200 grain Hornady XTP. I know these are a little bit saltier than just some lead bullets, but with the powder and my load and my recipe, I got everything. With this particular bullet, it just shoots really well. What is it here? What did I write down? I get like 7/16 of an inch group at 15 yards, you know, like a 4-shot group. No, granted that, you know, that's off shooting bags. That's not freehand, but I think that's pretty darn impressive. And whatever my gun likes, that's what I just use. So anyway, we'll get down to it. Put her in nice and easy. And now, usually the first probably 5 or 6, I'll check the length of every one. But the length I'm looking for here today is 1 inch 200. And I got 1 inch 275. I always turn it back a little bit because you go from one bullet to the next. You know, heavier bullet, different O-gave on the bullet. You know, it's going to affect the seating height. So let's give her a little, about a quarter of a turn. Check it. You know, I just kind of sneak my way up on it here till I get what I'm looking for. We're getting a little closer. See what we got here. I'll be pretty close. 25. This should almost do it. 1 inch to about 12, 13-ish. See what we get here. 1 inch 202, that's okay. We'll let that one go. Like I said, I check like the first 5 or 6, I check every load, you know, every bullet to make sure that it's seated to the proper depth. Now, the very first time I loaded for my 45 auto, I used the recipe right out of the book, and it was too long. The overall length was too long. For some reason, it just wouldn't chamber. So I had to shorten it enough just till it chambered. So, like I said, this is the proven recipe here. I don't need to shorten anything. I know this works, and we'll see what we get here with the second one. Should be pretty close. 210. Shorten it up a little bit. It's about 202. That's good. So I'm gonna do the rest of these, and I'll get back to you. Alright, we're back. All done. Have 25 rounds loaded up. One thing I did want to mention, like I said, when you get the 45 cases, you know, you're using such a small amount of powder. Before I seat the bullets, I visually inspect, you know, just look over here and visually inspect every case, at least to make sure that they look like it's about the same amount of powder. You know, like I said, you know, you don't want to lose your focus when you're reloading here. Next thing you know, you double charge a 45 case or whatever, and it blows up in your hand. You lose your fingers and, you know, eyes and so forth. You know, when you get to your bigger cartridges, you know, I shouldn't say bigger, but like your 223, for example, you know, you really can't double charge a case on that. You know, you try to put another load in, it's just going to run out over the top. You're just filling it up and it's running out over the top. But like my straight wall cases, you know what, I load from my other handguns, take a straight wall case, I do the same thing. I at least glance at it, visually inspect that each one has about the same amount of powder in. And when I'm loading, like I said, the first 5 or 6, you know, I might check the length on every one. And then once I get my overall length established, I'll check about every 5. But when I'm working up a hunting load, every one gets checked. Like I said, you know, revolver is not a rifle. You know, you're not going to get MOA or less at 100 yards. You know, it is what it is. But like I said, I load for quality and accuracy. I want the best quality and the best accuracy I can get out of my handgun. At least I know that I loaded every round the same way. I know if something's wrong, it's me. So, yeah, like I said, here we go. Loaded 45 auto round. Like I said, I was using a 200 grain Hornet XTP. I get 7/16 of an inch 4-shot group at 15 yards off my shooting bag, so that's pretty impressive. I hope I could educate you a little bit on reloading the 45 auto. So just want to say this is Mike from Guns and Hunting. Shoot often and shoot safely.